Hey y'all, thanks for stopping by the video. Today I want to go over some frequently asked questions from you guys, from all the comments. So I took the time to go through all the comments that everybody has left behind throughout the various years, organize them in like certain topics, and kind of trying to address those and answer those questions. Sometimes it's better through video than it is trying to put it into words, because you can't really see expressions or hear tones behind things. This is probably the best way we can have a conversation. But before I do, I just want to do two disclaimers. The first one is, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional. I did not go to school for transverse myelitis. I did not get a degree in it. So do not take what I have to say as prescriptive. I'm not trying to prescribe anything to you. This is just my lived experience being someone who has transverse myelitis, and I'm looking at it as a person affected by it, not someone who studies it. I have done my homework and my research, trying to study certain things because it applied to me directly. But once again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a PT, I'm not a professional when it comes to transverse myelitis. I have it. I've had it for the last 6 years as of today, so since 2019, 6 years. And this is just a small dose of what I've experienced, all based upon and geared towards the questions you guys have asked, number one. Number two, I definitely am not going to apologize about being a Christian, but I am a Christian, so that is my letting you know that a lot of these scenarios that I might bring up heavily rely on my faith. So I have read the comments, and I know there's certain people who don't want to hear the faith and don't want to hear that aspect of it. And I respect that. I understand that. I'm not trying to intentionally implant my faith into people, but it is who I am. It's a part of who I am, and it is how I've approached a lot of the questions you guys have asked. So I'm just letting you guys know ahead of time. I want to respect those who have expressed their opinions that they don't want to be preached at. That's not my intention, but I'm not going to apologize for being Christian and for having my faith in Jesus. So those are two disclaimers. So let's just get right into it, So these are just a small snippet of the frequently asked questions. I'm not going to throw in any ones that I've only been asked like once or twice, but these are the common things that I've been asked as being someone who battles and is fighting transverse myelitis. And the most asked questions have to be, if I had to categorize them, it's bowel and bladder, my recovery, treatment, my current status, where I'm at, and then mental state. And I want to save that one for the end, because that one is it's a lot more difficult to unpack. I'm going to breeze through a bunch of these questions. I will do my best going, with future videos on really diving more into a couple of the questions. And if you have any more questions or these spark anything new, please comment and let me know. So out the gates, bowel and bladder. So a little bit with transverse myelitis, right? It does affect everyone differently. In my experience of a lot of people reaching out to me, we don't share the same disconnection of the nervous system in regards to limbs, and some people's upper, lower, the left, the right, one arm, both arms, one leg, both legs, no legs, right? But the most common thing that people have been asking is it tends to affect a lot of the bowel and bladder. So here's the first question I've gotten. Hey, after getting control over bowel, in how many days did you get control over your bladder? Once again, for me, I actually don't have control on my bowel or my bladder. They have improved from being on the hospital bed to 6 years today. They have improved, but not significantly. And I would say I don't have control of my bowel and my bladder. But what I've happened is I've adapted to understanding when I'm backed up or when I'm not voiding enough. So I'll talk a little separate. We're going to go with the bowel. I just pay attention. I've gotten into the habit to actually look at my stool every time I go. and how often I go. So I've grown to be more conscious of the amount of times that I've gone to release my my stool, and then I'm conscious of what I've ate that leads up to that dropping, and then the texture and what it looks like. Because I realized that as I was trying to go through the process of speaking with doctors, they would ask, well, do you know what you ate, before that? And that's when I realized that my body, for some reason, can no longer break down beef as well anymore. So I've learned not to eat beef so frequently because it takes longer for my body to digest that because, it's muscles. This is all still muscles in there. So I hope that answers the bowel question. So when I realize that I am backed up or I'm not satisfied with the stool I've released because I'm aware of what I've eaten, and it's like, man, there needs to be way more than this because I've been eating a lot. I'll go ahead and do suppositories. I'll do some over-the-counter stuff to just kind of some laxatives to release it. And almost once in a while, I'll try to, I use this loosely, force myself to have diarrhea. Well, I'll have a lot of foods that will loosen your stomach. Like I'll go crazy on some pineapple because that tends to really loosen up my my bowels. And I'll do that on purpose, and then I'm kind of, I'm loose for a couple of days. So that's for bowel. For bladder, this one's probably the hardest to deal with because I don't have control of my bladder on where I would like it to be. I can maybe hold my urine now, like if I get the urge trying to go, I can probably hold it for maybe 2 minutes tops. But when I feel that urge, the leakage begins and I have to rush towards the bathroom. So because I haven't mastered it and I haven't got controlled, I got smarter then. I got used to knowing what to do. So some of the things I do is I drink more water than I should. Because I don't void properly, I want to make sure that I'm not retaining a lot, that I'm just consistently drinking enough water. So I'm consistently going to the bathroom. Yes, that's annoying. Yes, that makes it difficult because every time I sit for a while, I could have just went 5 minutes ago, but if I sat for 15 minutes and I get up way too fast, it puts that pressure in the bladder and then I got to go to the bathroom again. And if my bladder is always consistently full, then that means I'm going to the bathroom consistently. But you know what? I'd rather do that than to get infections, to get UTIs, or anything worse because, if you're listening to this and you have transverse myelitis at some point of your life, we don't know when we're sick very well. We don't know when we get infections very well. We don't really know when we get injured. So best practice for bladder for me has been drink a lot of water. And number 2 is I avoid any other beverages that are not pure tea. I have a weakness to sweet tea ever since I moved to the South, so I try to avoid that as much as I can. But I really just drink water, black coffee with nothing in it, and sparkling waters. And occasionally I have a sweet tea, but I try to go with unsweet. I do not drink anything any protein shakes, right? So I don't drink any sodas. I don't drink any juices, just because it's that will increase the possibility of me getting an infection in my bladder because I cannot void properly. So that's that one. Hope that answers your question. And if you got any more questions, feel free to reach out. Next question. How many months did you first start voiding on your own? So when I got admitted, they put a bag in me, and I had that bag for my whole entire stay. So I did 2 stints. I did 8 days in my hospital, in the hospital under intensive care, and then another 5 weeks at physical therapy. I keep wanting to say personal training. Physical therapy. And about my 2nd week into physical training through occupational therapy, they taught me how to self-cath. And then I self-cath for about maybe 6 months. And when I started working on my pelvic floor exercises, which is what I learned from occupational therapy, from outpatient therapy, was where affected me is T5 down. So it's my whole core is affected and down. And I have learned that through working your pelvic floor, that's not core exercises, it's not ab exercises, it's like your pelvic floor. It is like, it's where your back is, and it's the muscles that are technically still part of your core. We think the core muscles just being the front ones, but it's your whole entire trunk. So it's the back side of the trunk. So when I started working on my pelvic floor, it was when I was getting the ability to void on my own. So all that to say, about like 8 months. Yeah, about 8 months, I really stopped cathing, and I was able to void. Next question. Did you have the urinary retention initially? Yes. My bowel and bladder completely shut off. So as soon as I was admitted to the hospital, when they took it seriously, I wasn't going number 2 or number 1 at all. So I was retaining all my bowels and everything in my bowels, retaining everything in my bladder. So yeah, I've had retention, and I still have retention to this very day. It's just a small amount that's there. And like I mentioned earlier, is I drink significant amount of water to make sure that whatever's retained there isn't there much longer than it needs to for me to get infections or bacteria. Next question, did you have to catheterize initially as well? Yes, not self-cath, but they cathed me, I believe my second day there. I think that's when they cathed me. And like I mentioned, I had a catheter in me for about 8 weeks, and then learned how to self-cath, give or take. So that's bowel and bladder. That is all the questions the most common questions asked about bowel and bladder. The next one's going to be about my recovery, my specific recovery. And there's so much I can say about recovery. I've tried so many different things. I was very active, and my wife was very active of finding all different types of solutions. So to not drag out the video, because I can talk for a very long time about recovery and treatments. I'm only going to answer the questions as best as I can. And then, like I mentioned, you got any more questions, feel free to reach out. So someone asked me, I'm only 6 weeks post. How long was it for you until the little improvement stuck and became permanent? Permanent is the wrong word to ask me or to use. As you can see, I can move my legs and my toes, and I can wiggle. I've been able to work towards having a lot. But this current state is not permanent. Unfortunately, in regards to me, and with me in transverse myelitis, is if I don't use it, I lose it. So I'm going to answer this question, but I'm going to not mention the permanent part. So instead, I'm going to answer it in this fashion. I'm only 6 weeks post. How long was it for you until the little improvement stuck and became consistent? I'll change it to consistent, not permanent. Nothing's permanent for me. I would say about a year being post physical therapy. So from March to March. So March 2019, March 2020. March 2019 to March 2020. By 2020, I now was comfortable and was more familiar of the limitations of my body and what I could and could not do. And that is when I was able to find a consistency in my recovery and my mobility of what I could do and what I could not do, if I could get stronger or not. For the record, leg-wise, I really can't get any stronger. Going back to the permanent thing is just because it just resets. My muscles are not the same every single day. So that's that question. There's a second question, and when did it just get to the timeline where it just kept restarting every day? So the restart, and he's asking this question because I made a video on regards to every day is like a reset for me. And what I really mean by that is not that I worked really hard at walking today, and tomorrow I can't walk. It's not that kind of restart. But what I mean by restart is I really can't build off of yesterday's wins and successes. The best way I can explain it is if yesterday I was back squatting 200 pounds, and tomorrow I go into the gym and I feel like I can get back into that 200. That's not the case. Sometimes like I couldn't even like push through 160, like even just like testing it out. So the reset is a reset of mentality, a reset of perspective, a reset of expectations. Is that whatever happened yesterday, however well I moved or however bad I moved, however well I felt or however bad I felt, today was a new day, and everything I did yesterday can make things better or worse today. But I wasn't banking on, my mindset wasn't banking on what victories I had, you know. So to answer your question is, it's always been like that. And that's kind of what they told me when I was in physical therapy, when they said, hey, we're going to work towards every day getting someone and try to create momentum, but don't think you're going to be able to carry one moment to another day, you know. And so they already set that expectation that with transverse myelitis and the cases they've seen is, you know, I could feel great today and walk normally today, and tomorrow it can be a completely different story. So unfortunately, to this very day, I'm 6 years in. It is since 2019, and I have a better consistency, but I still continue to battle my body differently every day. So I take it day by day. Another question is, I have lost sense of soft touch as well from chest down, pins and needles in my legs as well, and strength in my right hand and left hip, left calf. Other than training, is there anything else you reckon I should try so that can help me? And what do you think your recovery, and when do you think your recovery stopped and became established and sort of no more permanent improvement? Thanks. Okay, 2 questions there. What do I recommend? A lot of what I've learned is not so much what I force my body to do, but it's also how I rest. If I rest too much, then that does kind of undo all the training that I did. And if I don't rest enough, I don't allow my body to recover from said training, what it was. So me, I've done a lot of CrossFit, basketball. I do a lot of powerlifting, Olympic lifting, strength training, bodybuilding. I've tried all very different things, and what I have learned is all different styles of training do serve a different purpose. You know, so when I was doing strictly powerlifting, I was realizing that I was getting stronger, but I wasn't very mobile. I was a lot more stiff because it's geared more about strength when I'm just powerlifting. When I was doing Olympic lifting, I realized that I was a lot more loose because it required a lot more of timing and movements and getting my whole body engaged at a specific right time, a specific moment. And I can go down the list of how they're all different. And I'm getting to a point. Is I had to change things up consistently and try new motions, different forms of working out, different exercises, different sports, so that my body kept learning and adapting, and then coupled in with learning how to rest in different ways. I bought myself some normal tech wraps that are just like these leg wraps that you put your legs in there and they inflate with air and they apply pressure and they close and whatnot. I've done sauna, dry sauna, wet sauna, hot sauna, jacuzzis, infrared therapy, through a sauna or through a laser, very, very deep tissue massage. So unfortunately, you have to adapt and you have to change and you have to force your body to do different things so it can recover and rest in very different ways so you can recover too. Unfortunately, with me, just sitting down and resting and laying down, it is not restful for my body. I've learned something that's called active rest, and that's usually like, going for a brisk walk is just resting for my body, since my body's so used to being like go 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 go. So that's what I recommend, right? For your first question, is I recommend that you have to just try everything, a little bit of everything, and if something works, don't get married to that. If something's working, take a couple risks and dabble into something different, shock the body in a good way, and then go back to the thing that you felt comfortable with. Because if you only continue to do the stuff that make you feel comfortable because you can move well, you're going to limit different areas. Like when I did CrossFit, I got really well at the sport, but then I lost my lateral movement. So when I went back to playing basketball, or attempting to try to play basketball, I struggled significantly, like I've never struggled before. And it's because all I did was CrossFit, and CrossFit's a lot of this and that, this and that. And then for your second question, when did I establish? Once again, like about a year in my recovery, I really established the understanding of what I had to do to move forward. And once again, it was trying different things, different forms of recovery, different forms of exercises. Next question. How long did it take for you to start walking from the day you got TM? All right, so I got TM on a Friday, and then I was in the hospital from Friday to the following Saturday. And then that following Saturday, I got admitted to an intensive physical therapy in California, in Vallejo, California. And that was a Saturday. That following Friday, I took my first unassisted steps. They were ugly. It was like 3 steps, and that's about it. No one holding me. And then from then, it just kept progressing better and better. By the time 5 weeks in, my wife knows the timelines way better than I do. It's just, for me, it was just go, go, go. But anywho, about 5 weeks later, I walked out of intensive therapy. So from TM, about 8 weeks. We'll play it safe. Between 5 to 8 weeks is when I was able to walk on my own. Wasn't very far, but I didn't need assistance from the cane. And it was really, really short distances. I was able to walk out of the hospital with a cane. So let me clarify that, okay? Between the 5 to 8 weeks, I was walking with a cane. Without a cane, like 2 months. So after TM, like 2 months. In 2 months, I was walking. I can walk from here to like the bathroom in my 800 square foot, 900, whatever size house it was. And then walk back, and then I was exhausted. Like I was tired. Like just doing that, walking from one side of the house to the other house was exhausting. How many days did I get recovery? I keep getting this question asked a lot in this format, like how many days do you get recovery? And I always answered it as like, how many days did I work towards my recovery? Every day. I'm not recovered. That's not encouraging, I know, but I'm not recovered. I look recovered. To the naked eye, I look recovered, but every day I'm grinding. Every day I'm working towards being able to maintain this, because once again, I'm going to go back, like none of this is permanent. Currently right now, I have a fractured foot, which has limited my movement to walk, and I am losing my ability to walk. The longer I have this boot on and I'm not being able to move my legs in very different fashions, I'm losing that ability to walk. I'm walking slower. It's getting harder for me to get around the house, go up the stairs and down the stairs, and I've been training for 6 years straight. So how many days do you recover? Every day. So what was your recovery process like? All right. The recovery process started physical therapy, and it started with occupational and physical therapy. Occupational was showing me how to get around in a wheelchair and live in a wheelchair, because that was the expectation they had for me, that I would at best walk with a cane from time to time, but I was going to spend my time in a wheelchair. That was their expectation of me. Praise the Lord, that's not it. That wasn't the case. All glory to Him. But my recovery process was very, very slow, very difficult, very humiliating, very humbling, very difficult. A lot of crying, a lot of sadness, a lot of insecurity, a lot of pain. I remember my first day going back into the gym. Okay, before I get that, I don't want to get too far ahead. I want to answer the question. So was 6 weeks of physical therapy. Then it was about 12 weeks of outpatient therapy. And then after that, I was kind of a fast learner, and I've done sports all my life. And before getting transverse myelitis, I was already into a lot of lifting and working out and training, basketball, soccer, track, baseball. Like that was I already knew all those things. So by like 12 weeks, I started going to the gym. And that is where the story kicks in. Is the first time I went to the gym, I was very, very scared. It was April. And yep, because I got released in February. So it was April. And I went in there and I have to work out my legs. So I went to the squat machine and I put 10 pounds on each side, right? And I was just like, okay, I'm going to play it safe. It's been a while since I squatted, and this is assisted, so, I don't have to worry about a bar or anything. And I got under the squat rack, well, the assisted rack, and I couldn't get it. I couldn't unhinge it. I couldn't even push it up. It was 20 pounds. And you can add whatever that machine weighed, But 30 pounds, and I couldn't. And I stopped what I was doing. I left. And I cried in the car. I cried in the car for a while. I called my wife and I'm like, I can't do this. I quit. And I'm telling that story so to let you know that it's hard. It's absolutely hard. So the recovery process had a lot of crying, a lot of fear, a lot of doubt, but I took it moment for moment. So like I said, I went from physical therapy to outbound patient therapy, where I would go to the hospital twice a week. That turned into once a week. That turned into once every other week. They gave me things to do at home. I went to the gym, had the experience, said I wasn't going to return, and I was just working around home. Then finally got the courage again and went back into the gym, and it was progressive. And I really haven't stopped since. So that's how it's been with me physically. And then the actual recovering, like resting recovery, I didn't really learn how to do that until almost like 2 years. Like I wish, if I had to throw in a little like nugget, is learn to recover, like resting recover sooner than later. Like with transverse myelitis, they tell us get to work. And the sooner you can work, the sooner you get around, the more you'll be able to retain, go. Like all that is true. But I wish someone would have told me that I needed to learn how to rest in an active way, how to learn how to rest my body while still being able to move. So I would recommend that. All right, next topic will be treatments. It says, have you tried stem cell treatment or considered it? No, I haven't. I've been kind of following it a little bit about it, but the only thing that stopped me from doing it is just I have heard of anyone who has transverse myelitis has had success with stem cells, at least more success than I've already had now. So it's a return on investment. Like once again, this is for me. I have a lot of my mobility, and I've learned how to manage my pain. I've gotten very far with how to live with transverse myelitis that doing stem cell, the risk is a lot more higher for me than the reward. And that's the only reason I haven't considered it. I have heard that it helps with mobility and being able to be mobile again. Like I mentioned, I'm mobile. So how much more mobile would it make me? Like, is it worth the cost? Is it worth the time? Is it worth the money? So that's why I haven't done it. And then the next question is, what kind of sports therapy did you do? One of my lifesavers was I found myself a sports therapist who is she's a certified massage therapist, but she loves sports, so I call her a sports therapist. She's not like a physical therapist that you get out of hospital, but man, anywho, I found myself a sports therapist who was really good at something called myofascial therapy, which I don't really know too much about it other than it worked for me. And all I really understood is it helped my nervous system calm down, and it helped with the nerve pain and the chronic pain. And on top of that, like, she would massage my muscles, and she would move my limbs, and I paid out of pocket for that. And to tell you the truth, like, that is, if the number one thing that kept me going, the number one thing that allowed me to combat the pain, the number one thing that allowed me to keep pushing was my sports therapist. And unfortunately, I don't see her anymore because she lives in California, and that's where I used to live, and I no longer live there. I live in South Carolina. So I did that. I'm still actively looking for someone out here that does that in South Carolina, and she is a diamond in the rough. She's like a unicorn. I have not been able to find anyone like her out here, but I'm still working on it. But I've tried deep tissue massages, which for sure work, but I need to find someone who really goes in deep. Like no knock to massage envy, but I have yet to meet someone in massage envy that can go deep enough into the muscles to really, really alleviate some of the pain. So Theraguns, infrared therapy, jacuzzis, anything that has to do with heat and cold. The only thing I haven't done is ice baths because the ice hurts so much. So anytime something really cold touches me, or if I get into cold water, I feel like I'm being stabbed. It's very, very painful. Like I said, no bladder control. I could not hold it. I had to go. So yeah, treatment-wise, that's that. They didn't ask me this, but I'm going to go ahead and just mention it. I do not take anything at all. Me. Once again, I am not a professional. I am not a doctor. I'm not a pharmacist, but I do not take anything at all that affects my mental state, antidepressant, or blurs my judgment. I don't. I value my peace of mind. I value my mind. So I would rather deal with the pain than to compromise my mind. That's me, though. The pain does hurt. It is really bad. People don't understand. Some of my doctors my neurologists are like, I know this is painful. Why don't you take something for it? I'm like, if it compromises, if it's an antidepressant, whatever, like no, I'm good. I don't want to do it. So, but that's me, okay? And no knock to anyone who does. Like, you do what you have to do for your body. I'll do what I have to do for my body. But treatment-wise, I do not take anything at all that will compromise my state of mind. All right, let's get into some conspiracies or some controversies, maybe. Another topic, a cause. Do I know what caused it, or do I have any reasons? And one of those questions is, I know of 2 others who ended up with this diagnosis of getting the, what was being told to be taken around 2020. Wondering if that could be a possibility since it's been fairly rare until recently. Any thoughts? These are thoughts. When I was in the hospital, okay, my wife and I thought it was pretty sketchy that the most common question I got asked by every nurse, every nurse, every doctor, in every field. I have a total of 6 different doctors, fields in which I have to see throughout the year, right? Okay. But when I got diagnosed when I was in the hospital, the very first question, number 1, did I get a vaccine? Why would you ask me that? Unless you know that this could be a cause from it. So, yes, I am going to say that I believe that transverse myelitis is a side effect of vaccines in general. They kept asking me if I took the cold flu, if I did the flu vaccine. That was the number 1 thing to ask. Like, did you take the flu vaccine? And I was like, no. I was like, oh, it will make sense if you did. They all said that. So do that with what you may. But if every medical professional that dealt with me asked me that question and responded in the same way, like, oh, well, then that would have been one of the reasons, then I don't know, do with that what you may. But no, I myself, with do I have any thoughts on what caused it for me? The last time I took a vaccine was in 2008. So that's 11 years later. I know science out there has said that some of the side effects that come with vaccines lay dormant for about 10 years. So if something gave it to me, I would say it would be that. If it wasn't that, then I have no idea, because it stumped every single doctor. It's not in my bloodstream. They couldn't find any rhyme or reason, and which is why they kept asking me if I took any vaccines. So that was my thoughts. In regards to the new one that they were pushing in 2020, I don't think it's coincidence that transverse myelitis has skyrocketed. Correction. Has increased. I don't want to be dramatic. Has increased since these specific new options have been available. The next one is, do you have an opinion on what may have contributed to your TM? I kind of answered it with the first question. The only thing I can link it to, the only 2 things I can link it to, okay? And this is where my faith's going to come in. But the first one is going to be the flu vaccine I took in 2008. It happened to me in 2019. That's 11 years apart. Let's say it could lay dormant for at least 10 years. What's to say another 1 more year, right? And it finally just activated on the very last year. Who knows, right? But that is, to me, the most medically reason I can think of that I have it. The second one is the Lord allowed me to go through this, to display His glory, and to be a good suffering servant for the kingdom. That's the second one. You don't have to accept that one. It is what it is. Now, my current status is the next groups of questions. The next one is, so are you in a wheelchair for the rest of your life? No, but it doesn't mean I won't be in one. And that's not me being pessimistic, but if I've learned anything with transverse myelitis, with me, if I don't use it, I lose it. Like I mentioned, I have a boot right now for a fractured foot, and I've had this boot on for going on 3 weeks. Going on 3 weeks at least. And it is for sure causing a negative effect in my mobility. So I'm assuming the older I get, if I don't take care of my health, I might end up back in a wheelchair. I don't know. I'm praying that that's not the case. Second question, where were you physically at the 2-year mark? So 2 years with transverse myelitis, I've done 2 Spartan races. So in 2021, that will be 2 years. So in 2021, I was very, very active, very physical. I'm kind of in the same state I am now back then. I actually lost a lot of strength ever since I got COVID in 2020, the end of 21. Oh my gosh, yeah. So the beginning of 21 and the end of 21 were very different now that I think about it. Yeah, because I moved here in 2022. I got COVID before I moved here, thinking out loud. So beginning of year 2, I have done 2 Spartan races, and I competed in the CrossFit Games and took second place for the adaptive. So that would be my all-time high in fitness and strength and whatnot. And then I also competed in another competition of CrossFit. Took second place on that one as well. And then at December, and that happened in November, and in December, I got COVID. And since I got COVID in December of 21, I've struggled a lot more for strength and mobility than I did in the beginning of 21. So that's kind of where I was. Hopefully that answers your questions. You got any more questions about that whole year? Like, it just hit me right now how big 21 was. Like, I didn't really realize it until me being asked this question and thinking about it. Like, I started 21 at an all-time high, and I ended 21 in an all-time low since having transverse. Do you have frozen and numb feet and legs? To this very day, I find a hard time describing what my legs feel like. And the best way I've been able to describe it, and you can tell me if this is what you feel, is if anyone's ever gotten a carpet burn, and it's fresh and you touch it and it's like that burning, tingling thing. That's what my legs feel like, from my core down 24/7. The severity of it comes and goes depending on what I did, how I ate, slept, rested, and play. Like, what I did yesterday does carry over on what my body feels like the next day. So my legs don't feel numb, because numb is like no feeling, no sensation at all. I feel something, but it's definitely not what normal people feel. And I know if you have transverse myelitis, you're like, amen, exactly. So I feel pain. I wouldn't say it's numb. Frozen feet, yes. My left foot actually right now feels frozen, and it's not cold. It is about 60 degrees right now. It's actually pretty warm. My house is pretty warm, and my foot feels like it's frozen. And that comes and goes. But it's only my foot. My legs don't feel frozen. Yeah. Do you have flare-ups or have minor relapses when you catch a cold or a flu? Yes. Getting sick for me sucks. More than just getting sick. And it's not a woe is me, pity us kind of thing, right? I'm assuming my majority of my audience is transverse myelitis, so you probably won't feel that way. But it's bad. If I get any cold, any flu, I'm in a lot of pain. It feels like someone's trying to rip my spine out of my back. I can't move, so if I can't move, I can't work out. If I can't work out, the pain increases, the stiffness increases, the twitching, the spasms, all of that just gets worse if I get a cold or a flu or a fever. So when my kids get sick here, I go into isolation. My wife, and unfortunately now all my kids know if they get sick, they can't touch daddy. They can't play with me. They try to stay as far as away from me. So it's really sad. Like, it's really sad that my 4-year-old knows if she's sick, that they all stay away from me. I have 4 kids, so they all know. So that means like a bug is always going through this house seasonally, and I pretty much get thrown into a bubble wrap if I could. I should be like Bubble Boy when someone's sick, because it is absolutely horrible. It's more than just catching a cold. It literally disables my body. So yeah, and then in regards to flare-ups, I actually get flare-ups whether I'm cold or not. And I wouldn't call them as relapses, but because I can't feel soreness, sometimes I will overdo it in my training and my working out, and I'll have flare-ups the next day that will show up as increased burning or increased chronic pain, and then at night they manifest as like a lot of spasming and twitching. So I have those kind of flare-ups. Do you still have numbness in your legs, or did that go away? Like I mentioned, numbness isn't the word. I don't have any numbness. It just feels different. And then, are you able to feel temp on legs? No, I am not. There's one time I poured hot coffee on my legs, and I didn't know, and I had jeans on, so I can't feel texture either. So if my pants are wet, I don't know that I'm wet. Like, my legs sometimes won't catch that. So I was wearing jeans, and apparently I dropped hot coffee, and I didn't know. It didn't even like touch my hand or anything. And my wife is the one that mentioned it. It's like, hey, you just dropped coffee in yourself. And I look, at my legs, and it's the steam is coming out, and I touch it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's hot. So no, so I don't feel hot water, cold water, hot temperature outside, cold temperature outside, the cold wind. This thing just went dark for some reason. Sorry. I don't feel any of that. And it's like, it's so tough to say, because it's like, I'm not saying I don't feel anything, but I don't feel the normal feeling that's associated with those sensations. And that was well said. So what I have learned is, if something is really hot, my body just doesn't respond to it. Like, it doesn't do anything. But if something really cold touches me, cold water, cold hands, ice, cold rain, like, oh my gosh, when the rain hits my lower back, ew, it hurts. So it manifests with me in pain. So if I get into cold water, like when I jump into the pool, and it's like, I do it anyways, the first 30, 45 seconds, my body's in shock. There's a lot of pain. Don't worry, I don't drown. I know it happens, so I hold my breath and I just stay underwater, and then I come out. And yeah, this is why I've never done ice baths, because I am deathly afraid of the pain, because it hurts really bad. When we go to the beach, if the water's too cold, I do not go into the water. It is way too painful. Even if it only lasts for a minute, it's a minute every time I go into the water. So if the water's too cold, I do not. It hurts. Next question, did you get back to at least 80%? It's hard to answer that question, because I didn't know what was like before I got transverse myelitis. I wasn't, it's hard to answer that question. I get asked that question a lot. Like, am I 80% better? I'm better than most. I don't mean that as a brag. It's just I'm better than most. But for me to know percentage, like if I'm 80% better, 90% better, I would have had to have been very aware of how my body was before I got transverse myelitis, and I wasn't. I was just trying to get back into shape. We've had 2 pregnancies. I was, trying to shed some weight before I had transverse myelitis. So I am technically in better shape than I was before I had transverse myelitis. You see, and that's what makes it hard. Like, I am in better condition, better shape. I have more muscle mass. I eat better. I sleep better. No, I don't. I know how to rest to sleep better. So I am much better because of transverse myelitis than I was before transverse myelitis. So I really can't answer that question, because it goes back to my previous answers, is every day's different. So today I can probably go deadlift 400 pounds. Actually, I can't. My max is, like, I know strength-wise, okay? I know strength-wise, I am not stronger than I was before transverse myelitis. I am not. Not even remotely close than what I was before I had transverse myelitis. And just for a figure, like on my heyday in strength-wise, like I could deadlift 420, I believe is what it was. Like that was my 1 rep max. It was like 420. And 315, I can deadlift for like 6 for 10, right? Now, I am lucky if I can even move 315. And when I do, I'm like to the moon. I'm in the clouds. I'm like, yes. And that's been 6 years of lifting weights. I can barely move 315. So strength-wise, nah, not even close. But I would consider myself. Did I turn this off? My bad. Hold on. Nope. This is how you know how real this is. Okay. I myself will consider myself better than I was before transverse myelitis, because of all the blessings that has come from having to live with this condition. How is my sensation right now? Well, how is your sensation right now? Right now, as I'm shooting this video, my left leg hurts. My right foot feels like I don't have it. Like it's not there. All I feel is just, I don't know. Uh, it's different every day. But sensation-wise, my most consistent sensation is that leg pain that I mentioned, where it just feels like a carpet burn, rug burn, all throughout. And then my hamstrings always hurt. They just always hurt. It feels like they're on fire. It feels like they're burning all the time. And that is my usual sensation. So I have a lot of chronic pain that just comes and goes, however I walk. But the excruciating pain that I used to experience, like I haven't experienced that in a while. And I would say is because I've learned how to recover well, like the resting actively well. And which is why I'll go back and say it. Like that's what I wish I knew and what was told to me during this whole entire process when I was beginning to learn how to actively rest. So because I actively rest and now I know how to train better with transverse myelitis, my high pains are gone for the most part. And only random things will cause them to come back, like extreme freezing cold, like I'm in excruciating pain when it's cold outside, like really cold outside, especially if it's windy and I'm trying to go for a walk. Nope, I'm good. So yeah. And then, so those are that one, okay? Now I want to move on to this a little bit more heavier one. And I'm not apologizing for having faith in God, because it's the only way I can answer this question. Okay? This is the only way I, in my life, can answer this question. And someone messaged me this and says, there's a long thing, so I'm just reading the last very part. And it says, and now more than previously, my mental state is dark, very dark. I'm hoping someone can write about the mental state to possibly help me. So that wasn't more of a question. That was just more of a cry for help. And I saved it for the end because it's heavy. It's difficult. And like I mentioned, I cannot answer this question and disconnect my faith from it, because then I will be lying to you. And I have zero intention to do that. So if you want to log off now, cool, go for it. But I'll promise you, I believe that this is true. So I was a Christian before I had transverse myelitis. And I came to the faith at 16 years old, 17 years old, give or take. And before that, like, I lived a very, very difficult life. I lived in the streets, in the ghetto, in the hood of San Francisco, California. And there's the reason why I'm bringing this up. And I experienced a lot of pain. I dealt with physical abuse through my stepdad for so many years. I lived in the streets with gangbangers and homeless, and I've seen a lot of horrible things. I've been involved in a lot of horrible things. Lost loved ones and seen so much death, so much violence. So at a young age, I was exposed to a lot of this stuff. So when I came to Christ, I was very familiar with pain. I was very familiar with being uncomfortable, very familiar that it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, very familiar with trials and tribulations and pain and suffering. And for some reason, when the gospel was presented to me, what I captivated and what drew me to it was there was a purpose and a reason for all of this. Like, so from a young age, I developed this mental toughness, per se, of not saying poor me or why me. But I learned to say, what can I do with this? How can this help? So growing up in the faith, I didn't buy into this gospel that everything was going to be rainbows and butterflies, and now that you know Jesus, everything's going to work out to my benefit, and everything is for me. I didn't buy into that one because, once again, like, the way I grew up, it made more sense when Scripture says, like, expect trials, expect difficult times, expect tribulations. Like, that's what the Bible says. That's what Jesus himself says Like in this world, you will. It's a guarantee, right? So if he said it, I was like, check, I believe it 100%. That's the most true thing that I knew was everywhere I turned, there was hardship. So like I mentioned, I'm going somewhere with this. So by the time that I was a grown man, I wasn't someone who ran away or got scared when things were difficult and when the trials came. Even when I made every right decision I possibly could, I still expected the other shoe to drop. Not in a pessimistic way, but just like in a prepared way. Like, I'm an athlete. Like, if pick a sport, like basketball is my love. Like, I know I mentioned CrossFit, but basketball is my love. Like, if it will be silly if you trained all your life to go join the NBA and then you complain because it's hard playing against other professional athletes. Like, that makes no sense. Like, you train because you know it's hard. You train because you know it's difficult. You know you're going to go. And you want to go against the best. Why? Because then you get to say you're the best if you beat them. And if you lose, you get this sense of like, hey, well, that was the best. Like, that's the greatest of all time. And I lost to him. Like, there's no shame in that. And I use that example of just the mindset that I have and that I see is in Scripture. And it was brought to me through Scripture. So by the time I was 30 years old and I got transverse myelitis, that's now 15 years of walking with the Lord. Yeah, it was transverse myelitis wasn't what I expected. It wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't even something that I even thought that could happen to me. But I also didn't expect all the other things that have happened to me in my childhood, in my past, and growing up into manhood to happen to me. Like, there's certain things that I caused, and there's certain things that just is a matter of life, of a fallen world. So it was very easy for me to cling on to what I already knew was true, that in this world you will find trials, you will find difficulty, you will find hardship. But it also says, in his namesake. And this is why I say I cannot disconnect my mental state away from my faith in the gospel. My hope was that this would encourage someone, that me going through this, I accepted this as a challenge. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. There's no medicine, right? There's no treatment for it. There's nothing out there right now at this moment that can take this away from us. There is no treatment, no medicine. We just, unfortunately, either it completely disappears, that's a miracle, or we deal with it in very various ways. So why not use it for his glory, and why not use it to help you? So me being able to answer these questions and has been because I've put my faith in Christ, and I believe that all the bad that has happened to me is happening and will continue to happen is meant so I can help someone else, so I can answer these questions correctly. If I didn't have this mental state of trusting and believing that it's easy to believe that all the good that can happen can help someone, but it is hard to believe that all the bad that happens to us can help someone. But you're here looking at my video, right? So that's why my mental state, when people ask me this question, I'm like, Jesus, it's my faith in God. I have one of my Bibles is here anyway, it's over there. And I was going to grab it, but anywho, I'm getting distracted. That's why, to me, like, my faith comes from Jesus. My faith comes from Christ. And if I can't tell you the truth, I might as well not talk at all. And the answers to all of these questions come from that book. Come from me putting my mind, my faith, my hope that everything I go through, both good and bad, is to edify and build up someone else, but in the liking of Jesus, you know. So I'm not trying to preach to you. I really am not. I'm just answering this question. And like I said in the beginning, I'm not a professional. Like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not any of that. Like, I have no grounds, no medical grounds, no certification, no degree, nothing to be able to speak to this with such a level of confidence, like as if I was. But I'm living it. And you're watching this video because you know I'm living it. And you get to see this and how far I've gone through the grace of God. But I'll throw in my last disclaimer. I also don't believe that because I'm a Christian, I got this much better. I don't understand why I'm in a better condition than someone else. I don't understand why, and I don't know why I get to still compete, that I get to work out. I get to do a lot of different things than other people are trying to. I don't, so I'm not going to sit here and say because I'm a Christian is why, because I would be lying to you. So I don't know that. I don't know why I am where I am, but I'm not going to spend my time trying to figure that out. Instead, I'm going to spend my time figuring out how to honor my Lord and how to love on you guys and how to help you the best that I possibly can. And that's what I hope that I was able to do in this video, to be able to help you the best that I can with my experience, my life. And if you want to reject it all, that's fine. It's okay. It doesn't hurt me. I'm going to continue to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue to seek my Lord. I'm going to continue to use his strength to honor him, but to love on you and to bless you guys with more information. So I hope this has helped you tremendously. If you got, I want to be able to answer more questions, so please reach out. I'd love to hear from you all. And God bless you guys. Thanks for tuning in.